Hello everyone. In this video we'll discuss the dynamics of financial crisis. So what is dynamics and what is financial crisis? It's a good question to start. Dynamics refers to the various phases of a financial crisis. And what is a financial crisis? We'll come to know of it. So you have to first understand that it is very difficult to put financial crisis into different phases. That this is phase one, this is phase one, and this phase two will happen, and then this phase three will happen, and then you get a financial crisis. This is not a recipe. Okay, financial crises are complex. They may happen over a span of few years, they may happen over a span of few decades, and they may even happen over a span of 50 years. So they are very complex, and there are several factors playing into in tandem with each other. In It may happen in one area, it may affect opposite end of the globe at the same time. So it's a very complex process. But then why do we have to study different phases of financial crisis? Well, it helps us to make better sense of the picture, what is going on. And once we start focusing our attention on different elements of the crisis, we can first have a better policy response next time we have a financial crisis. So we can give a policy response better. We can detect, actually a very important thing, detect a crisis if it is in display by applying our understanding of different phases of financial crisis. So kind of it can, and it's very fun to understand how a financial crisis unfolds. In this video, I'll give you a gist of the different stages of a financial crisis, and in the next few videos, we'll dive deep into each stage, and then we'll unfold many other things, many other factors, much more content for each of these stages, because this is just too big of content to be covered in one video. So there are three stages which happens in a financial crisis. To put in picture, there's stage 1, right? Then there's stage 2, and I would say a stage 3. So what happens in stage 1? There is an initiation onset of a financial crisis. I'll say initiation of financial crisis. This crisis soon turns into a banking crisis. And this banking crisis will turn into a debt deflation. Now, what are these? We'll explain in the next few videos, but for the time being, you can get a gist of the crisis. So, in the initiation of financial crisis, there is the problems of adverse selection, and moral hazard. Both these problems worsens. Now, if you want to recall, what is adverse selection and what is moral hazard? So I'll give you a beautiful example for adverse selection. Say you have a car market, second hand car market, right? And in second hand car market, you have some sellers and you have some buyers. The sellers are selling both the bad cars and good cars. So a seller knows whether his car is a bad car or a good car. Buyers have a general understanding that there are some bad cars and good cars, but they can't pinpoint one car and say this is a bad car, this is a good car. They don't have. So what do you call this sort of informational distribution between the two parties? They for sure know which car is bad and which car is good, and they know that there are some cars which are good, there's some car which are bad, but not necessarily which one is good and which one is bad. This imbalance of information, if you would say, we call it as asymmetric information, right? This is asymmetric information. So what happens in this car market? Buyers will affix a price. They will affix sort of an average price, and this price would be less than the price for good car, but this price would be more than the price for bad cars. Now, first focus on this part of the equation. Now, if the average price is less than the price for the car, so this is the price which buyer is ready to buy, and this is the price which seller is ready to sell. Seller will not sell, and what will happen in this situation? Seller will exit the market, right? Will exit the market. So you see, the good car sellers are exiting the market because of this asymmetric information and how this price has come about. And when the price of the bad cars, you see, the price for bad car is less than the price for the average price. So this is average price is set by the buyers are ready to buy for more, but and sellers are ready to sell for less. So obviously they'll charge the higher price. Sellers are better off, so the sellers will sell in this scenario. So there is a market, and for bad cars there is incentive for bad car sellers to stay because they are getting more price than they want. So market for bad cars prevail. So this is the problem of adverse selection, that over a period of time all these good car sellers will exit the market and only these bad car sellers will remain, and at the end you have just bad cars in the market, right? And what is the problem of moral hazard? So say you take a motor insurance, right? And this prevents you, it covers your health costs, it covers the cost to the damage to your vehicle. So what happens after, please focus on the word after, you have taken the insurance, you become reckless and you start driving heavy. Okay, so what happens after this? Because you have taken insurance, after taking this insurance policy, you became careless of your safety or the safety of the car. And this is the problem of moral hazard, and eventually there is greater cost for the insurance. Cost for insurance companies rises. So this is the problem of moral hazard, that the after buying up a policy, the policy holder does not care about their actions. I have told you in a very general sense. We can dive much deeper into what the adverse selection is and moral hazard is. So you can understand that there is something of a problem of asymmetric information. So there is a problem of asymmetric information in the initiation of financial crisis. So what happens with all this? So I can write here asymmetric information. And what happens with all this? You have something known as asset prices decline in this with initiation of on onset of financial crisis. You have increase in uncertainty. The financial statements of financial institutions decline. Okay, so just to give you just what are financial statements. Financial statements are the balance sheets and profit and loss accounts, profit and loss statements. These two form the financial statements, and there are also other things. And what is balance sheet? Balance sheet shows you the position of asset and liability. What are financial institutions? Financial institutions are, example, I can say banks. So what happens on the onset of a financial crisis? The position of asset and liability, the profits or losses increase, uh, profits decrease, or losses increase of banks. Okay, and eventually you can see when all this is happening, it will eventually lead to a banking crisis, right? Won't it lead to a banking crisis? So there is, in the second stage of a financial crisis, there is a banking crisis. So what happens with all the adverse problems of adverse selection, moral hazard? The economic activity declines. This leads to your banking crisis, which further, this crisis will further fuel adverse selection and moral hazard worsens. And further again, this is a vicious cycle. Economic activity decline. Okay, so I actually talked about the problem of adverse selection and explained to you what is adverse selection and what is moral hazard. But I would also like to take up a moment and explain to you through an example this in the context of financial crisis. I gave you the context of a second hand car market and insurance, but I would like to explain it in the context of financial market. So there are two parties, right? There are sellers and there are buyers. So here the sellers are of loans. So what do I call sellers of loan? You know it. We call them lenders. And then there are buyers of loan. What are buyers of loan? You know it. We call them borrowers. So when in financial crisis, what happens is borrowers know, sometimes may know their financial health, right or wrong. They know their ability to repay the loan. So if this borrower is a borrower who may not pay back the loan, then he's a bad borrower. And lenders, they might have they might not know about the financial health of the borrower, right? So in this scenario, we know that we have established the problem of asymmetric information, because in this example you can permutate, and in one example you can take where lenders have more information and borrowers don't know. Okay, and they might be sold bad policies, borrowers might be sold bad policies. Okay, so there's asymmetric information, and I'm taking, you can say this is case one, where buyers have more information than the lenders, and these lenders fuel in the loans, they give the loans, and is there ever any return back? There is just defaults, and they default, the borrowers default. So you can also take a case 2 where lenders have knowledge about a financial instrument which they are selling. Okay, and borrowers do not know whether this instrument is beneficial to them or this instrument is bad for them. Okay, you can have permutation and combination, and the lenders sell them a bad financial instrument, and the borrowers again default, or there is no return on the financial instrument. It's a bogus scheme. It can also lead to a financial crisis. It is often seen So there is adverse selection, and rather than, I would say, in this situation you can have lenders. You can, on this side, rather than borrowers, you can say, in a better term, there are investors, and then you can say bankers. Okay, investment consultants, they are selling bad schemes to their investors, and the investors pour in the money, and it can eventually lead to an asset price bubble. So this is just a permutation combination. You get the just how I can put in context the problem of adverse selection model hazard. I've established the problem of asymmetric information, and we know how asymmetric information will soon seep into and will create an adverse selection and problem of moral hazard. So, in the banking crisis, we have economic activities will decline, and there will be a banking crisis which will further lead to worsening of the adverse selection problem and moral hazard problem, and economic activity will decline again. If the asset prices were declining, these prices will decline so much. Sometimes there is also an unanticipated decline in price level. So you may ask that it might be a very relevant question, that if the asset prices are declining, so this is a market, right? So if the asset prices are declining, why would someone say that this is unanticipated? It all seems anticipated, but it's a stock market, right? And stock market, there are all, sometimes there are decline, and then there might be jumps, and these are like kings. Okay, so there might be decline, and eventually people may think that it will rebound back, but it does not happen. It just crashes, and it crashes very badly. So this is why I'm saying this is unanticipated decline in the price level. Again, adverse selection and moral hazard will worsen, and the economic activity declines. Now, now there is a full-blown crisis that have taken place, and it has tremendous impact on the economic front for any country. Now, in the next few videos, we'll dive much more deeper into the essence of each of these stages with much more nuanced explanation, which I would like to provide. So, for this video, you can have a takeaway that there are, broadly speaking, there might be 3 stages. Sometimes there are only 2 stages, sometimes maybe 3 stages, and which begins with the onset of a financial crisis. And in the beginning of the crisis, you may see the asset prices decline. There is an uncertainty. The financial statements, the asset and liability position of the banks or other lending institution is very bad. The profits are declining, and in the second stage there is a banking crisis, there is bank run and all, and then lastly there is debt deflation. Okay, so these are the 3 broad stages to understand the complex financial crisis, and see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.